We should have a post show to this show. Dagan can do it.
I was going to say, go for it. I'm out.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's GEEKLY Live. We are back. As I fart around with StreamYard, I still don't have my little mouse thing here, so it makes engineering a little more difficult with the touchpad. But yes, we are here. We're here to talk some pro wrestling, as usual. Hey, we're still new. Nobody knows who the hell we are. We're just screaming into the void at this point. We've got like 4 people that are watching this on the replay. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
You're the true fans.
Thank you, Jim, Sally, George, and Shauna.
Sure. Well, here we go. Fingers crossed that my internet's going to hold up today. It's been working just fine the last week, but you never know when you're in the middle of the woods. And so my only theory so far is that StreamYard is causing it to crash. So hopefully that's that's a false theory. But let's dive into it. What the hell are we going to talk about today, Soda? There's a few things to go through here.
Yeah.
But you and I think we talked about Impact Wrestling a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this weekend was the first time you actually sat down and watched a show. So
yeah.
What is your impression? Let's start there. What is your impressions, first impressions maybe, or current impressions of the modern era TNA, aka Impact Wrestling in 2023?
Yeah. One of the things I liked, oddly enough, was the production of it, the camera work. I liked the way it was shot. It almost felt, I don't know, it almost felt like a drama. It was weird. Like it didn't feel like I was watching a wrestling event, but it was a good feeling.
Yeah.
And the matches I watched were pretty good. I didn't start at the beginning. What match did I start watching at?
The dog collar match.
Dog collar match, yeah, the one I wanted to see. Nick, coincidence.
Which I think we both agreed had some good spots, but was slightly underwhelming, and there was no
exactly.
blood.
You think that dog collar match?
Yeah,
you're gonna get blood or something.
I love Masha Slamovich and I love Killer Kelly, but it was a little slightly underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a solid match. Just it could have been. I guess the expectations
could have been
higher.
Longer. Yeah,
that too. But overall, a good show. I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I thought both the Motor City Machine Guns, obviously the big story coming out of the show was Chris Sabin winning his 9th, I believe, X Division title. And then, of course, Alex Shelley finishing his story.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike some other wrestlers. And winning the Impact title for the first time, which is crazy to think about. Somebody like Alex Shelley, who's a vet. He's been around forever. He's been an Impact forever.
I watched
them
like in their heyday of like was when I was watching TNA. I go back a long time with these two.
Yeah, Shelley hadn't even challenged for the world title up until like a year or so ago.
Yeah, which was surprising to hear.
Yeah, so there you go. I think that even more surprising was the fact that Steve Maclin's title reign was ended so early. I figured he would have at least a few months with that belt, given that coming off of Josh Alexander, who had that belt for almost a full year. But it's Impact, and their belts don't they change hands frequently. Mm-hmm. So, not a huge shock, I guess, but definitely surprise.
It was pretty cool.
And
it was a very good match.
I don't know why his title reign was so short. I mean, it was like a month and a half. I feel like he could have gone through a couple more guys and maybe done this at Slammiversary. I don't know why they had to do it on this particular show, but whatever.
The only reason I can think there's maybe 2 reasons. One is just they felt it was time, or 2, maybe this was always the plan. They just had to fill in the gap with Maclin.
That's what I was thinking as well. That maybe Josh Alexander was going to beat Maclin and then lose to Shelley.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I got. But anyway, good for Shelby. I can't talk. Good for Sabin and Shelley, both of those guys. Yeah. I think they've been around the business very well respected, and good to see
Had
them both
great-
have runs.
Great matches on the night.
Yeah. Sabin beating Trey Miguel for that belt. Trey Miguel has been champ forever. I think that result wasn't as surprising because of the way that they were booking that feud. It definitely seemed like Sabin was going to beat Trey Miguel, but definitely not. I was not thinking that Shelley was going to win as well, and we'll see where it goes. I don't know if it's going to lead to one of them turning on the other one, or
I was thinking that while watching the ending. I'm like, oh, Sabin's going to turn.
Yeah, either one of them. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it goes. I could see Shelley turning on Sabin, but I could also see, I could see like one of them turning on the other one, and then Sabin exercising option C, which is I think is that what it's called? Yeah, in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, where they exchange the title for a shot at the other title.
So the X Division champion vacates the belt, and then in exchange for a number one contender for the world title, and then they have like usually a tournament or X Division crazy match to
Ultimate X,
usually after option C. So I wonder if they're going to go that direction with them feuding eventually. But it's a pretty nice moment definitely a feel good moment to have both guys standing tall with belts at the end of the show. So that was cool.
Yeah. It like when it was happening, it kind of brought back shades of Benoit Guerrero at WrestleMania. This one we can talk about.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good show. Impact Against All Odds. I recommend it. Go and check it out. There's some other good stuff on the show, including this very weird. It's called 8-4-1 match. So basically, it starts.
I like the concept.
It's an interesting concept because you have a mix of like heels and faces on opposing teams, and starts as an 8-man tag, and then the winning team then turns into a fatal 4-way, and the guys wrestle each other, and then the winner of that gets a number one contender shot. So that was won by Nick Aldis, who's made his return to Impact recently.
Not surprising.
That's who I had my money on in this match, and I figured it would be Macklin and Nick Aldis at Slammiversary, but now it's going to be Aldis and against Shelley. Although maybe they'll throw Macklin in there and make it a triple threat. That was the other thing I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe
is a slight possibility. But we also had the former Naomi, now Trinity, wrestle on this show, teaming up with her challenger or teaming up with the champion who she's challenging at Slammiversary. Which is kind of interesting. They're both sort of baby faces at this point, and they had a pretty good match with Savannah Evans and Giselle Shaw.
It felt like a WWE match.
A little bit, yeah, where they force the challenger and the champion to team up, and then they have to get along to
thwart the
heels, and they did coexist, and they did win. And there's actually a nice moment of respect at the end.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely looking forward to Trinity and Deonna Purrazzo. I think that's going to be an awesome match for Slammiversary. So,
I was curious about her, about Trinity, because of she's only able to do stuff. So, she can hold her own outside of.
I think so too. I wasn't sure how she was going to look coming back after almost a year off or whatever it was, but I think she still looks really good in ring. And has had some really good singles matches on Impact TV already. So I think that they're going to have a great match, her and Deonna. And then I guess the question is, I think that I read from Sean Ross Sapp or somebody that she's only signed with Impact Wrestling through the summer, like through the end of the summer. So I don't know if that means she's not going to have a Knockouts title run, even though you kind of think she would. Being a big, star as she is, but who knows? I mean, maybe she's going to use this as like a launch pad to sign elsewhere, either to go back to WWE or to maybe go to AEW, because I think that would be another, I think still the AEW women's division needs all the help it can get. And somebody like Trinity would be another big star that they could add to those ranks. So we'll see.
In this, in this feud against the Outcasts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She'd fit in there on the babyface team, or maybe even on the other team, on the former WWE team. I was thinking, so kind of to switch the conversation to we're talking about the AEW women's division now, but You have this Taya Valkyrie and Chris Statlander feud.
Mhm.
It seems to be just in the early stages. I wonder if that's going to also fold into the Outcast, because it seems like Ty is like going full on heel now. Maybe she's going to join the Outcast, and Statlander will be on the babyface team, and you have a big blood and guts match later on down the line, whenever that is.
That's how you do that one.
Because I think Taya would be a good fit for the Outcasts, considering she was in NXT briefly. It was only for like 6 months or something, but.
Yeah, it wasn't
still technically was there, so I think she could fit in well with that team. I still think Athena would be another one that'd be good to bring in. I mean, she's just
in WWE.
Yeah, so I think she'd be another good one. But yeah, definitely some interesting. I'm just curious to see how everything shakes up as the summer goes on, because it feels like, there hasn't been a lot of like massive breaking news over the last couple of weeks. Like no huge thing happening outside of maybe like CM Punk, being announced to return, which everybody kind of figured would happen. We knew that for months anyway.
Apparently not really pushing much tickets.
Yeah, so maybe not having as much of an impact there as they wanted to, but other than like the Chicago show, obviously. But we just have to kind of see, because like I'm gonna jinx it, and we're gonna go off the air here tonight. There's gonna be some massive, huge news story with somebody signed or is leaving somewhere. I was reading some stuff about Drew McIntyre earlier about how creatively it does not look like he's on the same page with WWE and for his possible return. So I know his contract, I think initially people were speculating, he'd be a great debut for All In, but I think that he's like, we're way past it. If he were to somehow get his release, that 90 days is long after All In now at this point.
Yeah, it's like September, I think.
Yeah, so I think that the story was that his contract was up like at the very end of the year or early next year. Something like that. But it didn't. It sounded like him and WWE were kind of far apart, which is an interesting one to look at. That would be another massive signing for AEW. I know people whine and complain about how AEW has too big of a roster right now, but. They just added a 2-hour show. We talked about this. They added a 2-hour show, and somebody like Drew McIntyre would be awesome to have like on a collision.
He would fit easily.
Yeah. Another name I kind of want to see. Crazy enough, I know a lot of people don't want to see him in anywhere near AEW, but there's been talk. Tony Khan mentioned it a little bit about Goldberg potentially. He says he talks with Goldberg frequently. They're friends. From the Florida area and everything, and they do a lot of work for the similar charities and things like that. So I want to see Goldberg come into AEW specifically so that he can kill QT Marshall. The clip of actually it's the full match, but the 1:20 Goldberg coming back after a while and absolutely murdering Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2016. Somehow that I didn't watch it live. I watched it like the next day, but I think I didn't have it spoiled for me or anything. So I was like, all right, let's watch this match. It was just just so crazy. But I want to see him do that. I want to see Goldberg do what he did to Lesnar in that match to QT Marshall. I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
QT Marshall wouldn't even last a minute.
Yeah, and if you have to, have him beat Hobbs en route to then having a match with Wardlow, where then Wardlow, he actually puts Wardlow over, because it sounds like he's only going to have a few matches before he retires. This is going to be a retirement tour separate from WWE. He's already come out and said that. But whether or not that also includes a few appearances for AEW obviously remains to be seen. There's always just like been speculation about it. I don't think anything has been set in stone or even been talked about. But that's what I want to see. I know people are like, I don't want to see Goldberg anywhere near AEW because he's just going to squash dudes. But I don't know. Something kind of fun about the idea of him absolutely laying waste to QT Marshall and QTV. Oh, man. Oh, man. But, so there you go. Speaking of guys murdering each other, we had the blocks and the schedule announced for the annual New Japan G1, which I'm very, very, I think I'm like more excited this year to watch it, even though a lot of it's seems kind of the same. A lot of the same guys in there, but they
There
did
were
this
a few
new.
that surprised me.
Yeah, there's a few surprises in here. We'll go through the list in a minute, but it's this same format that they had last year where they changed it, and now it's 4 blocks instead of 2. It used to be 2 blocks of 12, I believe, and now it's 4 blocks of 8. So I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so it's 4 blocks of 8. And the way the G1 works, as you know, is everybody has matches with each other, and then they earn points for each win. And then the guys with the most points at the end will face each other. Usually it was, for a while there was the A block versus the B block winners. But now, because there's 4 blocks, they have added a semifinal in there. So it's A block versus B block, D block versus C block, and then those 2 winners face off in the final. So coming off of last year's finals, which was Okada versus Ospreay, and just an absolute barn burner of a match. I think we both had that high on our list for matches of the year. But I think the element that makes me more excited to watch it this year is the fact that we now have the return of cheering fans in Japan. That finally they've opened all that back up again. So it's going to be nice to finally watch some G1 high octane energy level G1 matches with the full on screaming crowd. I'm really, really looking forward to that. But I don't know, Soda, you don't really watch the G1. Are you going to watch any of this year?
You know what? I might. I probably won't watch it live. I'll probably watch it a couple of days, like catch matches a couple of days later.
Right.
But yeah, all depends. Like I was curious to see, like, I don't know if you're ready to go into who's in there, but Eddie Kingston is going to be.
Yeah. Eddie Kingston is in the G1 this year. We were wondering about who, if anybody, they were going to send over from AEW last year. They had Lance Archer in there. He's been a staple of New Japan, but Eddie Kingston being in there this year, I think is a nice surprise, and I think he's gonna have some really good matches. So we'll go through the
over there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been wanting to go over there for a while. So like wrestling the G1 is just going to be an absolute dream for him. But we'll go through the blocks here. So keep in mind, every one of these guys wrestles everybody. So there'll be matches where each guy wrestles everybody else in their block. So for the A block, we have Sonata, Chase Owens, Hikuleo, Ren Narita. I like that. That's a new name. Shota Umino, Yota Tsuji, Gabriel Kidd, and Kaito Kiyomiya. Now, Kaito's another name that stands out. Obviously, he's a guy that is a Noah, Pro Wrestling Noah entrant. That's pretty historic that he's in there this year. So, and then they've been teasing him and Sonata for a bit. So that'll be
historic.
Yeah, it is pretty historic. And I don't know. I wouldn't be like totally surprised if he wins that block.
Why?
Yeah, Sonata's the champ, but the champ hardly ever wins the block because they have to have a couple matches that they set up for him to wrestle somebody between now and the Tokyo Dome, which is way off in January. So usually the champ loses a couple matches in the G1. So we'll see who that'll be to set up Sonata's next potential challengers. But then
why is it historic is what I was asking.
Oh, why is it? Because Pro Wrestling Noah and New Japan for years did not get along, and now they finally started working together in recent years.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so having Kaito in there. But B block, we have Okada, of course, Yoshihashi, Taichi, Kenta, Great-O-Khan, Will Ospreay. So that's interesting that the 2 faction mates will have to face off at some point. Plus, we'll get Okada and Ospreay again, which is always a classic. So keep your eye out for that. Tongaloa and El Phantasmo. So that's B block. For C block, we have the current leader of the Bullet Club, David Finlay, Tomohiro Ishii, Evil, Tama Tonga, Shingo Takagi, Aaron Hanare, Eddie Kingston, and Mikey Nichols. So keep an eye out for Eddie Kingston versus Shingo. Those guys are going to absolutely just tear each other apart. Aaron Hanare is another interesting name to note. That's another one of these United Empire guys that's improved leaps and bounds in the ring over the last few years or so. And then finally for the D block, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Hiroki Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Toru Yano, Jeff Cobb, Shane Haste, and Alex Coughlin. So the D block, more of a traditional New Japan block, but I think Naito's the guy to look at coming out of that block because obviously you're thinking like him and Sonata down the line potentially for a shot, given that they were former faction mates and everything. Maybe that'll even, I heard some people saying maybe Naito's the guy to win it this year because then, that would be an interesting rivalry to have take place at the Tokyo Dome with, again, former stablemates now on separate factions. And it's kind of interesting. You'd think when that happens, when a guy leaves a faction like that they like feud,
Yeah.
they immediately hate each other. But there hasn't really been any hints of like just 5 guys, which is just the most silly name ever. And Los Ingobernables,
Very
they
just
have Pone. Yeah, the LIJ guys and the Just 5 guys feuding hasn't really been a thing yet. They've kind of had a couple tag matches here and there, but there's never really been. It doesn't really feel like there's any like animosity between the two groups, and it kind of feels like maybe they should build to that because again, it would sort of make sense given that Sonata was such a huge part of LIJ for so many years. So. There's full schedules out as well. I won't go through all of the dates because it'll take absolutely forever, but you can go to New Japan's website, which is njpw1972.com, and that's where you can see all the schedules, which, of course, takes place between here as I look. July 15th is the first night. That's when it starts. And then you have the 16th, 18th, 19th, 21st, 23rd, 25th, 26th, 27th, and 30th of July.
Wowzers.
August 1st, 2nd, 5th, 6th through the 8th, and 9th. And then on the 10th is the semifinals, followed by the finals on the 13th.
So basically, it's like a month-long tournament.
Yeah, although it looks like they've added another round this year, which is interesting. I didn't notice this before. Where they did it so like the Best of the Super Juniors had this as well. So there's a quarterfinal match, which is going to be the first place winners against the second place winners. So there's actually going to be a winner and a runner up for each block, and then those guys are going to go at it. So you're going to have August 10th, A block first place winner against C block second place winner. It's almost like a little weird tournament seeding thing. B block winner versus D block runner up. C block winner versus B block runner up, D block winner versus A block runner up. So just to make things way more confusing. And then the winners of all those matches will face off. So you're going to have 4 matches and then 2 matches and then 1 match for the finals. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun. The G1 is always a fun thing to watch. So I am really, really hyped to kind of to follow that this year. It takes some time because they are long shows and it's like almost every night, as I mentioned, between July 15th and August 10th. And I got a lot of other stuff going on too this month. So
no shit, eh?
Man, it's going to be a lot to sort of keep up with and follow along. So often I'm like, oh, I'll be able to watch this and I'll catch up on the off days. And then it's like, I look at the calendar and I got 4 days of the G1 to watch, that I've backlogged on. So hopefully it doesn't get too much like that again this year, but I'm sure that it will. But there you go, guys. I highly recommend you all watch the G1. So it's going to be really exciting this year, even if it is a lot to keep up with. Speaking of a lot of things to keep up with, I can't handle it anymore, Soda. These fucking WWE belt changes. And not belt changes as in somebody beat somebody out for the belt. I'm talking about they couldn't have Roman Reigns, his belt. They gave him a new belt, and then it's like, then we have another new belt because he's never going to wrestle and defend the belt. And now there's a women's belt. What the fuck? There's too many belts, and now there's not. Then there's
some of these were done with reasons, even if the reasons are weak. Okay, so the Roman one, it just made no sense for him to have 2. And now it's no longer technically undisputed.
Yeah, there's 3 world titles.
It was just done. It was like when they did the Undisputed Championship back in 2002, when they took the 2 titles and just merged them into one. That's all this is.
You know what the easy solution to this would be? Just have 1 belt, like for each division. Like have the Intercontinental title, sure. Have the U.S. title, fine. Those are secondary mid-card belts. But the world have the WWE title. Have the WWE women's title and the WWE tag titles. Like, they would solve all these problems.
The way I would have done,
like Universal Champion, SmackDown Champion, Raw Champion, now Universal Champions. But yet we have Asuka, who's the WWE Universal Champion, but then there's another women's champion. So it's like, why don't they just have Asuka and Rhea fight for a unified belt? It's too many.
Okay. these belts are just are replacements. That's what it is.
They're props, Soda, because it's WWE.
It's because they backed themselves into some stupid corners.
Yes, they did. Good job,
the
Vince.
reason with Asuka is because do you remember the last couple of years when they would draft the champions to the other brands? They would just
it's so stupid.
You know how they would do the stupid switch off?
They had that switch where they had to trade, and they were like, play tug of war with the belts. So bad and done.
Make a new, rename it and whatnot. So it sounds like they're going to do it tonight as well with Rhea Ripley, which is going to be interesting because the one Asuka has is the WWE World Women's World Championship, I believe. So it's like, well, what are they going to call Rhea's?
The WWE Women's Universal Championship.
Oy.
That's a name that Vince would come up with. So that's what I'm going to call it.
So that's the reason for that is just because they stupidly backed themselves into some dumb corners. So
but it's easy now to fix. Like what you do is you just give new belts to Kevin and Sammy. They're the WWE Tag Team Champions. You have Seth and Roman face off at some point, and then it's the WWE Champion. You have why do they have to make a new fucking stupid belt?
This is how I would book it. I don't know if I ever told you how I would have booked this draft. I would have still done, all the players, on their separate brands, but I would have had the world champion and the tag champions for both men and women's divisions be the only ones that cross over. That's another fine solution,
but. Man, too many belts and champions, and I feel like they could have Rhea and Asuka have a match at some point for both the belts.
Yeah,
because that actually sounds pretty awesome.
Want to hear something wacky? I don't know if you read this today, but there's a report going around that I guess for the TV rights for WWE, that FX is interested, which is Disney. It is Disney. I'm like, interesting.
So there was all that talk of when WWE sold. Some people were like, well, Disney might be one.
Which I was secretly hoping for, so it means I would have finally been able to watch it on my smart TV.
You can watch it on Disney Plus, all the WWE archives on Disney Plus. Great. Yeah. But of course, as we know, Endeavor ended up being the ones to. I don't even think they called it a purchase. It's more of a merger, I guess, which is, I don't know what the difference is, but I guess, whatever. I'm not a businessman.
It's basically an equivalent of a super team.
Yeah. So. But now that's different from TV rights. TV rights is a completely separate ballgame. Yeah. So that's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are being renegotiated for a rights deal for somebody. And there's certain, a bunch of bidders probably in on it. But FX of all channels. Mm-hmm. So watching Raw and SmackDown on FX is a possibility. And NXT, I guess, as well.
Which would be curious because. Some not all, but some booking decisions are kind of some booking decisions are kind of done to appease
USA Network. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why Roman is on SmackDown, right?
WWE feels like it's been on USA Network for forever now.
It has
a decade.
Oh, way longer. Well, yeah, they've been back for about a decade, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Before that, they were on there for years.
Right. So I don't know. It'd be weird to not have it on USA Network. Yeah. But I don't know.
I don't see Fox getting letting go of SmackDown anytime soon.
That's a good point. So we're actually kind of just talking about Raw and NXT at this point.
Yeah.
SmackDown is pretty much locked in at Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what happens on the other side of things too with AEW, because there was talks that there were rumors and reports that they had renewed a big deal with Warner Brothers for over $200 million a year, which is an insane amount of money, $1 billion.
Yeah,
total. But that was unsubstantiated, I guess, those reports so far, unless it's happened behind closed doors and some details got leaked out, or they're still in talks. That's what I think is that. I think they're probably still in talks. And the current contract, and Tony Khan has even kind of said this, is the same contract that was locked in, which I believe is up in 2024. So TV rights deals, big thing. And now with the addition of Collision in there as well, I wonder how it's all gonna pan out, because
Yeah.
if we're talking about ratings, AEW just crushed it on Wednesday, going up against Game 3 of the NBA Finals. They drew I believe it was a 905,000 overall rating. So, just about 100,000 under a million. And I think it was like a point 27 or something, 18-49. So it was a really, really good number going up against the NBA Finals.
They're doing okay.
And this week they have no competition. So we'll see if they do an even bigger number. And I will laugh if it's not as good of a number as last week that went up against the NBA Finals. But the way people are on the internet, it's like, they didn't get 1 million viewers, so they must be a dying company. They're going to be bankrupt within 6 months.
What's the big match going on for Dynamite this week? It's the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Hung Bucks.
No, it's yes, that's on there too. But MJF and Adam Cole.
That's right. Yeah, I think they're going to do okay. I think they'll do all right.
I think they'll do a good number for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. MJF proven ratings draw.
Supposedly. Yeah, pretty much. Not often you see him wrestle, especially on free TV. Well,
right. Yeah, no, that's going to be a big match. Do you think MJF is going to, or do you think Adam Cole's actually going to beat MJF clean to get a title match, or is this it? Is this the end of the feud for now, and MJF just wins, and then they come back to it later on down the line?
That's where I'm leaning toward.
Yeah. And I think this will be like MJF will be like, okay, I've adhered to my contracted, obligated time, and now I'm going to fuck off for 3 weeks, and y'all can do Forbidden Door, and I'm not going to have any part of that. So,
it's gonna be good. I'm thinking that this Adam Cole feud is kind of like a placeholder because with Collision, I have a sneaky suspicion that's going to be CM Punk's going to be.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Bring it on, baby.
Yeah. And whether or not they revisit Adam Cole feud down the line, or Ricky Starks even, I think, has a claim to that belt. Or I heard a lot of people speculating that the best thing for them to do would be to have Darby eventually be the one to beat MJF with a headlock takeover.
Yeah, which would be
coffin drop and the headlock takeover. Yeah.
There has to be a payoff.
There's got to be. And like Darby as world champion is actually like something I could see, because it's like you would never see a guy that looks like Darby Allin win the world title in like.
Could you imagine a picture of Darby Allin on top of Mount Everest, which he's planning to climb next year, with the AEW title?
With the belt? Yeah, there you go. And that would make sense.
And then he dives himself into a crevice, and the title gets lost forever, and they have to introduce a new one.
They have to vacate it. Yeah. Why do we even wish such a thing upon? I guess if we talk about it and laugh about it, then it won't happen.
I hope so, because
that's talk about
documentaries.
Yeah. Please don't kill yourself there, Darby Allin.
Be smart about
it, man. Yeah. Well, I think we covered most. I don't know. What did you think of Dynamite this week? I thought it was a pretty good show.
It was pretty solid.
It kind of had a weird ending almost. Like it was like really good and really hot to start. You had that Orange Cassidy swerve match at the beginning that was just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And
great match.
Yeah, but then as it went on, we got to Ricky Starks and Jay White in the main event, which was kind of I don't know. It seemed like there was maybe some miscommunication on a couple spots. Like it was a little wonky in places.
Yeah.
But, other than that, it was a good show.
Why was it the main event?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was weird.
I feel like they could have had that Orange Cassidy swerve match.
Yeah, but I mean, Orange Cassidy is like a proven opener right now.
That's true. Yeah, he pops the ratings at the beginning of the show, and it's the title run that I've been the most interested in recent months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even give a shit about anything in WWE at this point. So it's like,
there's been a few good matches, but I mean, it's not must see TV.
What? Orange Cassidy?
No, WWE.
Oh, okay.
No. Like WWE, I watched it. I'm back to where I was a year ago, where I watched the pay-per-views because I know there's going to be great matches. Yeah. But when it comes to the week-to-week stuff, I just pay attention on Twitter and I watch my ups and downs and stuff. So I'm not really watching unless I have to. I'm not watching.
It's the same way for me, but it's like I hear about this on a weekly basis. They're like, oh man, there's this great, like Gunther match on WWE TV or whatever. And oh, there's this really good Seth Rollins, AJ Styles match or whatever. And it's like, man, I really wouldn't mind watching those matches, but it's like I'm not going to prioritize it over all the other wrestling that I have. It's like I kind of felt a little this is how I was thinking about this the other day. This is kind of how I put it. So WWE, it was like when WrestleMania rolled around and Vince wasn't around for a bit there, it was like going back to an ex-girlfriend. And it's like reigniting the flame, you got Ben Affleck and J-Lo or whatever it is. And man, this is some good times with WWE. There's still a couple issues here and there, but it's like the flames are the spark has been ignited and you're having a great old time with your ex-girlfriend. And then WrestleMania rolls around, but your girlfriend has always had this father figure in her life, whoever that might be. And father figure has always been kind of controlling her life and causing all sorts of problems in her relationships. And all of a sudden on the big night that you're gonna have with your lady there, here comes the father figure back in the life, and his name is old Vinny, and old Papa Vinny comes back in, and then by Raw after WrestleMania, you're fighting with her and screaming and shouting and saying "fuck you," and then I slam the door behind, and I'm going back up, much hotter, younger woman by the name of All Elite Wrestling that I'm gonna enjoy my time with, and fuck you, ex-girlfriend WWE, fuck out of my life. That's where I'm kind of at as a fan, Soda.
It's totally fair. I mean, you're not the only one. Vince McMahon had his time. He should have retired a long time ago. Honestly, I think the two worst things to ever happen. While I understand, but from a business standpoint, they're both great. But from a wrestling business standpoint, the two worst things to happen were WWE going public and WWE buying WCW. If you actually look at it from a business standpoint, because prior to then, Vince didn't have to answer to anybody, and he was at his creative best. And, they have the WCW competition. But then when they bought WCW, it's just like, well, now what? And Vince was able to do whatever the hell he wanted. And WWE hasn't been consistently good, I'd probably say, since 2005.
Yeah.
And I mean from like a week to week.
I'm not counting like the NXT of 2015 to 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm talking main roster stuff.
Main rosters, Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
You're always going to have your good weeks and your bad weeks. And you're never gonna be like it was in maybe the early to mid 2000s, where it's like great every week. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
But some of the matches are still great. It's just the stuff in between the matches sometimes can be cringe.
Well, talking about wrestling history, Soda, why don't you wrap us up this week with our new segment that we've debuted here? We teased it last week. Yeah. What you got for us? What's the new segment, and what do you have? So
last week was the 1-year anniversary of Cody Rhodes wrestling Hell in a Cell with the torn pec, and it got me thinking, what else happened, today? So I figured on to do the segment would be this day in wrestling history, and I'm using tjrwrestling.net because it has them set up by days. So on this day in history in 1987, the final of a tournament to crown the first ever IWGP Heavyweight Champion was held in Tokyo, Japan. New Japan Pro Wrestling founder Antonio Inoki defeated Masa Saito to win the title. His reign would last 325 days, but would be the only time he would ever hold the title.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool New Japan history facts there for you.
Yeah. In 2001, at a SmackDown taping in Baltimore, Maryland, Test defeated Rhino to win the WWF Hardcore Championship.
Wow.
This match was noted for featuring the WWE debut of Stacy Keibler.
Ooh. Yes. Class of 2023 Hall of Famer right there, Stacy Keibler.
Yeah, right. And from all accounts,
legs herself. Yeah.
Yeah, and from all accounts, one of the most nicest people you'll ever meet.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I would love to meet Stacy Keibler.
Oh, yeah, me too. She seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now there's a few more, but this is the big one for today. On this day in 2005, WWE presented the iconic ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view from the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City.
Good stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a pay-per-view I go back and rewatch often. The show marked the revival of the ECW brand for the first time since the company fell into bankruptcy in 2001. The show was produced as a faithful ECW down to the size of the ring, graphics, camera angles, and even the usage of Enter Sandman by Metallica as his entrance music. The show was a huge critical success and eventually led to the revival of the brand 12 months later as a weekly show. In the main event of this show, the Dudley Boys, in their last match before leaving WWE, donned the tie-dye gear one last time to defeat Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman.
That's classic right there.
That show from top to bottom, there is no bad match. So,
yeah.
Rey Mysterio's match, I don't know, Rey Mysterio kind of felt out of place, oddly enough. But there was a good match between Eddie and Benoit. Not their best, but it was pretty good. Lance Storm's last WWE match against Chris Jericho. You had an amazing triple threat between Super Crazy, Tajiri, and was it Little Guido? And then you had the showstopper, the match that stole the show, Mike Awesome versus Masahiro Tanaka.
Sounds about right.
They beat the crap out of each other. Holy, that's yeah, there was a lot of great matches, and of course you ended with the massive brawl between ECW and the WWE Invaders, and infamously had JBL beat the shit out of Meanie.
Nice.
Which resulted in about 9 days later on SmackDown, they booked Meanie against JBL. And as a receipt, JBL took one of the hardest chair shots I've ever seen taken to the head. Holy shit. Like you could hear it. Like it was like hearing your bones. And they become friends ever since. But yeah. It's a historic night in wrestling for sure.
It's a classic show. Yeah.
Easily, 100%. It was it like the highest selling pay-per-view on DVD that year or something like that?
Probably.
Yeah. It did good.
If it wasn't for that show, it wouldn't have continued with more one-night stands and led to maybe one of my favorite John Cena matches of all time is John Cena versus RVD.
Yeah.
One Night Stand 2007, I believe. 2006.
2006. There were a couple good matches on that one for sure.
Yeah, that was another really good One Night Stand pay-per-view. And just the most heat that John Cena, I think, has ever gotten in his career. That crowd was about ready to eat him alive if he had beaten RVD.
It felt almost like Rocky going into Russia.
Yeah.
You know? But my favorite match from that night was the tag match, Mick Foley and Edge versus Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer, which turned into a 6-person intergender match when they added Lita and Beulah McGillicuddy in there. And my God, that ended in a pin that you could not do today. Holy shit!
Oh man!
Actually, you could, but it's Rhea Ripley doing it. Edge did that Edge did that to Beulah.
Yeah. Whoa, man! Crazy stuff. Well, there you go, everybody. A good, fun history throwback there to wrap up the show. That's pretty much all I got today. So, you got anything else or any shows coming up? There we go. I figured it out. Any shows coming up that you want to hype?
It's the usual Fun with Flags and Fun with Flags coming up on Thursday over at the Northern Entertainment Group.
Yep, and you can find me here and on my other channel, Dagan S Brad, on the social medias at Dagan SB, DAGANSB. Instagram, primarily, a little Twitter here and there as well, even though it is burning to the ground and being buried alive by Elon Musk as we speak. But there you go. We will be back again next week with more Geekly Live. And as we head into the summer and all sorts of fun stuff happening, look forward to talking about it here with you, Soda, as always. And until then, everybody, we'll see you next time. Peace.